Hi, I'm Jennifer Carter, and thank you for joining me on a podcast for parents, teachers, and administrators. Today's conversation should be a good one, and I'm sure it's something on your mind. So let's get to it.
So thanks and welcome to everybody to Mrs. C's podcast for parents, administrators, and teachers. You all do important work in our community, and so we're going to have a conversation today about the work you do and how it ties families to community. So let me start with Carol.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, my name is Carol Givens. I'm the owner and founder of Mrs. B's Table. We're a nonprofit organization in the community that uses home cooked meal as a resource to get the unhoused access to resources that they need. And we also assist low-income families and veterans.
Nice. Mr. Terry, why don't you tell us what you do?
Terry Boykins, CEO and president of Project Fighting Chance. We're an award-winning after-school program that focuses on utilizing boxing and boxing fitness for youth that have been impacted by trauma, social emotional issues. We also do mindfulness, yoga, chess programs, arts enrichment, literary arts, performing arts as well, to actually all focus in on ensuring that we're dealing with the whole child.
Nice. Carly, why don't you tell us what organization you're with and what you do?
Hi, yes. So I'm Carly, and I am one of the CEOs from Elevate Behavioral Health, along with Celeste. So Celeste is also here. She is my partner. And what we do is we provide just parent coaching, specifically with kiddos with autism is our expertise, but we do expand.
Celeste, you want to add to that?
Hi, yes. My name is Celeste Resendiz. Kind of like Carly said, we're Elevate Behavioral Health. Carly and I both coach and empower parents with tools to better connect with their child. And like she said, we specialize in autism and special needs, but we also help the typical population as well. A few of our areas of expertise include like behavior health, so behavioral support, really working on reducing frustration and tantrums, aggression with our little ones, toilet training support, and sleep support as well.
Nice. I definitely appreciate sleep support. Camille, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey everyone, I'm Camille Hampton. I'm a licensed speech language pathologist and the founder of Embrace Therapeutic Services. We're a pediatric therapy clinic based in Inglewood in Torrance. We specialize in supporting children with autism as well, language delays, and other developmental disabilities. We started Embrace because we saw too many families, especially Black and Brown families, getting overlooked, misdiagnosed, and really just simply not being supported in the way that they deserve. And so our mission is to change that. So we provide neurodiversity affirming play-based therapy that centers each child's individuality while empowering caregivers to feel heard and equipped and included in the whole process.
So I heard like a couple of words that seem to be the theme. I heard coaching a lot, I heard empowering a lot, and I heard parents a lot. So at Oak Tree, we work with our parents a lot. What's the impact of your work on like the whole family, or especially, you know, as you're talking about unhoused families or families with veterans in them?
Our importance of helping parents is to be honest, sustain the family over the lifespan so it's functional and that it can produce outcomes, whether it's be wealth building, whether it's be education, whether it be connectedness. Our objective is to really catch that period of time in a child's life when they're going through some things, maybe the trauma, and could have been trauma that's been created by the parenting issue, to help them get on track so they can thrive over the lifespan.
Camille, you know, that kind of makes me think of what you do, because Terry, you're giving them like physical, like within themselves on how to manage their emotions and manage how they interact and then also teaching the parents how to pick up those cues and manage themselves better. Camille, how does that language delay have an impact on the whole family?
So it has a significant impact on the entire family. It extends beyond just our therapy room and our clinic. And so I hear Terry talking about just regulating emotions, and it makes me think about how we teach parents about co-regulation and self-advocacy. And so teaching them strategies so that their little ones can advocate for themselves when they are feeling dysregulated and frustrated. And so, of course, because of language delays, it's already a really frustrating thing for not only just our clients, but also for our families that may not understand where the language delays are, what the origin is. And so it's really important for us to break that down for the family, for our parents, so that they know how to support their little ones, and also to teach it to not, their husband or their parents, so that everyone is on the same page about how to support this individual with language delays.
And I think, again, that kind of goes into behaviors, right? So we operate preschools, and our littlest people are 6 months, and our biggest people are grade 5. So we kind of have the bookend. Our grade 5s will punch people, our 2s and infants will bite people. And, Celeste and Carly, I'm sure in your world, like in terms of behaviorism, how do you manage that? Or what tips do you give to parents, like going out into spaces that are not at home? Because as much as we all love children, when we go to a restaurant or if we're in a mall, it's dysregulating to us as adults if kids are out of control, biting or pushing or screaming or yelling. What kind of things do you do to support parents so that their kids can exist in those spaces, more comfortably for them and for people around them?
Yes, that's a great question. So Carly and I work with, like we talked about, parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, teachers, because behavior is environmental. It's really dependent on like the overall setting. And so if a parent comes to me and says, oh, we're having all of these behaviors, I don't know, in the home setting, we see tantrums and aggression at little sister, she's hitting her or hitting herself. What can I do? And to answer your question, Jennifer, sometimes, we see those behaviors out in the community, in the school setting, out in restaurants. And before we can even target in these kind of loose environments with unknown variables, we have to first start at home. That's what Carly and I do. So we meet the parents in their home, right in their living room, or wherever they're comfortable, sometimes in the kitchen, and really sit down with them and identify, what are your goals? And then from there, we create an individualized behavior plan specific to that child. And sometimes parents think, oh, they're coming, other traditional ABA therapies have a one-to-one therapist that they work the therapist one-to-one with the child. But that's what's different about Carly and I. We don't work directly with the child. We work with the parent, because the parent is the one who's going to be implementing the strategies when Carly and I go home and we're done for the day. The parent's going to feel that competence and that confidence and have those tools in their tool belt.
Carly, did you want to add on to that?
Sure. Yes. I wanted to add an example. Usually parents think, we can go into the community right away, and, and it almost sets them back, because no, we have to start at home first. Right. But once we do take that step into the community, and they see the small changes that we worked on in the home outside, and they're able to display those tools in the community, it's reinforcing to the parent and to the kiddo. So, both are now able to do things that they weren't able to do. So one specific example I have is, I had a mom who wanted to no longer buy a toy. Every single time she went to the store, she would have to buy a toy because kiddo would have a tantrum if she didn't. And she's like, this is costing me a lot. I can't do this every single time. And so I was like, okay, let's go ahead and start small. Go to a small store, and the 99-cent store or the Dollar Tree. I'm like, we don't want to go to a big store because it's very likely when you say no out in the community for the first time, he's probably going to have a tantrum because now this is new to him as well. So it's new to mom and it's new to him. And we did it, we tried it, and the plan was as soon as we get into a tantrum, we're just going to go ahead and go home. And then that's going to set the tone for, the new way of doing things for kiddo. And it ended up being successful, over time. And that's one thing. It takes time. It's not overnight. It maybe not even a week, maybe not 2 weeks, maybe a few months in order to gain and be exactly where they want to be.
And I love that idea of helping again, it's all about the parents. Kids are clean slates. It's the parents that really are the ones implementing things and making sure that, that their child can be a part of a healthy community. And I think what I'm kind of thinking of is, why did you all start what you started? Tell me a little bit about your origin story in the community that you were in and why you see this need translate into what you currently do.
I have an extensive corporate background, high-ranking executive in the consumer product industry. And I was afforded an opportunity coming up from parents that were from the South and did not have much education nor much income, which that trajectory changed with my siblings. So as I began to exit corporate America and get familiar with this nonprofit world, which is very different than Wall Street, I kind of started recognizing the impact of child maltreatment on financial gains over the lifespan, i.e. retirement.
Interesting.
And so as I looked at the impact of trauma on the lifetime earnings of the individual, it became somewhat telltale as to why we have the disparities and disproportionalities amongst certain groups. And so coming from a corporate world where you're around a significant amount of money at a young age, when working in the community, I realized that we have a problem here. There's a disconnect from the importance of these programs in the community, early childhood development, and retirement or free-tirement, later on in years. And so within my particular affiliation in terms of the African-American community, it became kind of discouraging, the fact that you have people who never had a chance to, whether or not they dealt with mental health, or they didn't understand finances, or they didn't understand long-term trajectory, that they would literally work the rest of their lives, which was unfortunate. That starts in childhood, because you become conditioned to accept mediocrity and almost poverty to a point. And I wanted to engage myself in a program. So we transitioned the boxing component, where a number of, there's a number of media outlets that have basically done interviews with Project Fighting Chance. But I realized that the environment of the staff itself was so traumatized that it could not move the vision of the organization out of the ground into the mountains. And we began to do that. And it's become a very different organization, from, I think, a 4-figure organization to nearly an 8-figure organization today.
I think that's really interesting. That idea that trauma has an impact on your income. It is limiting. Thanks for listening. Don't miss out on updates. The best way to keep informed and the best way to have the best tips is to subscribe to our newsletter at oaktreelearningcenter.com. Now, let's get back to the conversation. What else? Who else has an origin story, or what's the motivation for you to do what you do?
So for myself and Carly, I've been in the field of behavior. It's called applied behavioral analysis, ABA. It's a field that's science driven. It's empirical. So these strategies that we're equipping our parents are actually scientific based, right? But something I noticed in the field working over 12 years across various companies is kind of like what I mentioned before, that the traditional model is a one-to-one therapist with the child. And yeah, the child would master certain skills or have zero behaviors with us. So per the data, it looks like the tantrum goal is mastered. It's 0, 0, 0. All these zeros on the graph, fantastic, right? On paper. But when you ask parent, they might say something different. They might say, no, we're still really struggling with this. He does great with his therapist, but as soon as she leaves, they may not have the skills to be able to implement the same thing that the therapist is implementing. And their strategies, really, it's nothing like phenomenal or magical, amazing. Sometimes parents think, oh, it's because, you're his teacher and he feels more comfortable with you. He'll listen to you. It's really not the case. The parent can learn these same skills and implement them just as good, if not better, than I can. And so I haven't done my job if I leave and parent feels like they need me or lost or dependent on the therapist. And so Carly and I created Elevate Behavioral Health because we really want to elevate the standard and put the time, energy, and just the skills into the parents, in the caregivers.
Carol, do you want to tell us your origin story?
I've always been, fond of giving back and helping others because that's what I grew up around. And even my time in the Navy, I was always doing the comrels or community relations in different countries when we were there. And after I got out the Navy and, finished my MBA and did other stuff, I had to still help my sister out who lives in New York with her nonprofit organization. And then I literally had a dream that I was supposed to be feeding unhoused. So I woke up and told my husband, I was like, I'm supposed to be feeding the homeless. And he's like, with what money? I was like, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. And so, working with my sister, I was like, well, I know that if I have a nonprofit, then I'll be able to get funding from these companies that have designated funds for this. And so that's how I started. And it was a complete shock to me when less than 2.5 months, I was completely and fully 501c3 incorporated. And I was like, well, if it's happening this fast, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Camille, how did you get into this?
So I got into, or Embrace came about essentially out of frustration with just working in the parameters from other various settings that I worked in initially before opening Embrace, like in the school settings or at maybe other private practices. I felt the work at the time didn't align with truly what I wanted to see in our therapy rooms. And so just as the name says, Embrace, we really strive to embrace each and every family that comes through our doors, whether they come with different cultural differences or communication differences, and empowering families that just because we see a difference doesn't mean that we see our clients as broken or needing to be fixed. We recognize that every child and family has a unique way of communicating, and so it's our job to meet them where they are. And so that really just speaks to a lot of the work that we do, and it's really, really important to us. And that's something that I didn't always see when I first started out as a speech language pathologist. And so I get really excited about the impact that we're currently making with Embrace. We don't want families just to feel, we want families to leave our sessions, not just with progress, but with confidence. And understanding how to support communication at home, or just feeling empowered to advocate for their child in other settings, like in the school and in the community. We want them to feel like they've got a team behind them.
Mm. Nice. So now we've heard about each other's work and what we do. What questions might you have, or what opportunities for collaboration as you're hearing each other? I'm always thinking, oh, wow, we could use, or I know someone who could use, what do you hear as points of collaboration or points of overlap as you're listening to each other?
I know that as a speech therapist, we have a lot of children who are on the spectrum, and so we work very closely with our ABA team. So I'm really excited to be able to connect with Celeste and Carly after this, because we have a ton of kids who are in need of you guys' services. We do work with a lot of different organizations that we get clients from that who are in need of meals and housing. And so, Carol, it would be nice to connect with you as well. And Terry, in the future, as we learn more about, how what you do and your services can be integrated in our speech community.
I was just going to say, I agree 100%. I'm writing everyone's name down since the beginning. And just starting with Camille, I think, yes, a lot of overlap in the populations that we serve. I'd love to be able to collaborate with the speech pathologist and kind of pick your brain. And it's very nuanced, right? Communication and how can the whole premise of behavior change is when, frustration is high, behaviors are high. It's typically because communication skills are low. We're having a deficit. And so, we can't have ABA without communication. So definitely collaborate there. And then with Terry and Carol, yes, I agree as well. Any kind of upcoming events, Carly and I would love to hear about them and possibly do some cross promotion. I'd love to learn more.
Because I have to look at it from a business perspective. These are the types of organizations and groups that oftentimes people don't understand how they impact the economy. What I'm interested in is the talent that's on this call, and to be able to access something very significant for populations of color.
We have our communities, and you can see Oak Tree, we have our community and we invite people in, but how do we build that community writ large, where we are connected and where we are supporting, where we are really fortifying the way that humans interact with humans, people talk to people. We don't know each other through a technological platform. We know each other through technology, but also where we can literally hug each other or shake each other's hand. So how do you build that?
I think the first way to do it is literally to get out. We have to be out in the community. And I think it's important that we're having these conversations, as Terry said, especially within this, political climate. I think we really have to think about seriously what our role is during this time within our communities. We need to be having these conversations. We need to identify how we are going to go out into the community, come up with a plan and be intentional about how we're connecting with our community and how we're going to continue to connect, and how we are going to continue to follow up on our initial connection and creating spaces for us to have discussions like we're having right now with you, Jennifer. This is kind of my first time speaking on a panel like this. So it's very inspiring to be, I know we're not in a room, but on this platform to have this conversation, because it's really got my wheels are turning. So
I'd definitely like to piggyback off what Camille said about getting out there, and if the space doesn't exist, create the space to be able to facilitate whatever it is you're trying to do.
I agree. Very powerful. Carly and I are still kind of in the baby stages of kind of formation. So this is all really new. We actually had a booth event a few weeks ago. And just like another example of getting into the community. I had a parent that approached me and just sharing really intimate things about her and her baby. Like her baby was on the spectrum and she's just sharing a lot of frustrations. Like, wow, I really want to work on these skills. What can I do? And so just that personal connection, person to person, is I wouldn't have been able to have that had I not went out in the community and had this event. So more events like this, definitely, I'm sure. I think it's really impactful.
Mm, mm. You know what I'm hearing is kind of an undercurrent. So I would prefer not to learn this in this environment, but I think what we're all doing now, because we don't have a choice, is we're learning a level of self-sufficiency. And it's like, when one person stands, they're easy to push over, but when we're all linked arm in arm, we become more and more impossible to break through. And I think that that's what's happening. It's, again, God gives us the tools and methods in different kinds of ways, but I really think that we're all learning a really good lesson about why we need each other and how we are way more powerful than any government or any entity or any business. People are really taking that self-sufficiency and running with it. And I think that's what we're doing with our parents, is we're giving them those baby steps towards, like, here, let me help you gather these tools so that you can be self-sufficient. And in that journey for self-sufficiency, what's your ideal, right? With your work, if you had 100% impact and you eradicated the thing that you were working in, what would it look like if you achieved 100% impact in your community or for your community?
For me, I've always said this. I think if kiddos learned early on at a very young age how to cope with their emotions and communicate, Camille, as well. So cope with your emotions and communicate and have those effective strategies to be able to cope with maybe, a no or just disappointment, then we wouldn't have grown adults behaving, having grown up tantrums. So learning at a small age, if we can go in all the schools and just teach coping strategies at a very small age, I think that would be amazing, because then we would have kids communicating effectively with other kiddos, not, beating each other up at a young age, not pushing. Yeah, I think that's what I see, what I could see, at least.
I think that's so right, because however you feel about January 6th, that was just a bunch of people having tantrums because they felt like they weren't heard, and I can't say they're right. I can say some things, but I won't say that they're right or wrong, but that's what it is, right? Is when people aren't being heard and not having the voice and the skill to be heard more effectively and more constructively. What about other people?
For me, Jennifer, I think what it would look like if we were able to get our job done thoroughly. The word that comes to my mind is legacy. I think the family would be so dynamic with regards to its resilience and its ability to thrive generationally, that the focus would be on how do you, generation to generation, begin to progress so that sustainability is a reality and not a dream.
That is a fantastic goal. Does anybody else want to share?
Yeah, it does put the responsibility on us as clinicians, as teachers, as parents. It's our job to equip our kids with the skills to be able to navigate anything and keep them safe, right? In a way that's healthy and productive and functional.
I think it's a great message for us to understand the subtlety of our collective and individual impact. So thank you all for joining us for this conversation. I definitely feel enriched. Why don't we do a quick round and just tell us what social platforms or your phone number, website, so that people can find you?
So we're on Instagram. You can find us at MRS_B_table, and our website, www.mrsbtable.org.
We're Elevate Behavioral Health. Our Instagram is Elevate BX Health on Instagram, and our website is www.elevatebxhealth.org.
You can find us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, PFC Champions, which is that's the handle for the most part. And then our website that we use most of the time is stopthetrauma.org.
So yeah, if anyone wants to connect with us, we are on Instagram at embrace therapeutic _. We have a website that is coming soon. We're kind of going through a rebranding. So at embrace therapeutic _.
And Carly, I know that Celeste already told us. Why don't you share any additional things you want to tell us about how to get in touch with you or any event that might be coming up?
Well, your event, right? There's the end of the September, we'll be there both days.
At Oak Tree Learning Center?
Yes, both days, both centers. And you can catch Elevate there.
Excellent. Well, this was a pleasure. I am very glad to have you in my community. I am very glad that our parents have you as a resource. I cannot wait until you're on our campus. Our community days are September 25th and 26th. We have them in LA and we have them in San Bernardino. I can't wait to have you meet everybody, teachers, kids, and other parents. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate having you. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you have an idea for something you'd like to hear, just drop it in the comments. And we'll see you next time at Mrs. C's podcast.